everyone. I'm Steve Brunson, and welcome to the AAMplify podcast. This week, we're going to be talking with Bree Harding from Carr, Ingram, and Amy Jemison from Warren Averett. And the topic this week is one that I know both of these two have a lot of experience with, and I think can bring a lot of insight, and that's merger marketing. Both of their firms are rapidly growing and have been through multiple mergers, and their experience in that is what we'd like to talk about a little bit here today. So what I want to do is first let both of them introduce themselves and get a little bit more background about their firms, and then we'll really get into the meat of the conversation here and hear what they have to say. So Bree, I guess tell us a little bit about your firm, and then Amy, we'll hear a little bit about Warren Averett.
Sure. I'm Bree Harding with Carr, Ingram. We're a southern regional firm, so basically Texas up to Kentucky, North Carolina, down across Florida. We are currently the 22nd largest CPA firm nationally. We are the fastest growing firm in the top 100, and we've done more mergers every year than any other firm in the 5 years that I've been here. So we are moving and shaking and believe in southern values and organic growth coupled with strategic merger growth as well.
Great. Amy, tell us about yourself and Warren Averett.
Amy Jemison, and I've been with Warren Averett for about 14 years, long time, and we have had some significant growth in the last 3 or 4 years. We've gone from, just kind of from a perspective standpoint, low 70s on the top 100 to in the top 30 in the last couple of years, and we also doing organic growth as well as some strategic growth.
Excellent. Well, we'll jump right into this. Both of you are veterans of several mergers, and what I'll do is ask one of you a question and then give the other one a chance to give your perspective on that or any other thoughts that you have. So start with Amy here, and tell us a little bit about how you approach the process. From the firm that's generally acquiring, when do you get involved? What's the process that you go through strategically from a marketing standpoint to prepare for an upcoming merger?
Well, it's a little different now than, say, 3 years ago. Our first significant merger in 2012, I did not get into the process until late in the game, from my perspective. Learned about it in November, and it went live in January, so it was quick. Since then, we have we've all kind of learned some things, and we understand that there's a lot of things that go on that marketing is going to drive, and so I have become more part of the process. We've got a task force that's focused on expansion, and I'm part of that task force. So now I see things that are coming down the pike, and I have some time to plan. And I do get involved some in helping the firm evaluate markets, evaluate opportunities, maybe from a niche standpoint or service standpoint. But the overall approach, once marketing is involved, our approach has been, you have to understand that it's a huge process and it's phased. You really can't cover everything in those 6 months leading up to the merger, or 3 months or 2 months, whatever you have. So you just have to address things kind of in phases: communication, internal and external. Then you've got to look at branding. You've got to look at integration of your marketing team, and then also just integration of cultures, services across your new footprint. So I guess my approach has been kind of a phased approach, and then also just getting the right team. Make sure marketing has a seat at that merger team table, where you're talking operations, you're talking legal, you're talking marketing, all of that. You need to be part of that discussion so that you can fit that in strategically with everything else that's going to go on during the merger.
Excellent. Bree, tell us a little bit about how you approach the process and when you get involved with the merger process.
Okay, so when I get involved is a little different from Amy. Usually for us, it's about 6 to 8 weeks before announcement date. And so I know what firms we're talking to, but I don't really start because there's a lot that are being talked to. So I wait until my managing partner, and he's the one that handles exactly who we're merging with and what the timeline is. He gives me a call and says it's agreeing. And from that point, I start dealing with the incoming firm. For us, we are really merging them into our firm. And so, and usually they're a smaller firm that we are truly merging into our culture. So there's some fits there, but and into our processes. So I definitely agree with Amy. It's a transition in a processed, phased approach. And usually the way that I have everything set up is basically pre-announcement date, which is a lot of research and background and gathering information from them and putting together all the announcement pieces. Then I like to think of it as announcement day for us, which is always crazy, but day is really a week around that. And then post-announcement, which gets to Amy's point about the branding and the longer-term strategies and really transitioning all of their marketing initiatives and elements over in a way that makes sense and that also rebrands them as a part of us at the same time. So, and I guess I would say the biggest thing in any merger, my personal opinion, is flexibility. I've done 20 here, and what I would say is everyone is different. And a lot of them have been traditional CPA firms, but we've recently done some different types of mergers with wealth management and transaction advisors. And regardless of that, there is nothing that is cookie cutter approach to a merger. So just be flexible, roll with it. As long as you stay focused on the goals of the actual merger and not the tasks, you'll make the right decisions.
Okay. Let's talk specifically maybe, and Bree, you can lead us off on this one. With different aspects related to merger. Obviously, there's integration of the different marketing teams. There's the strategy and the maximization of value. But let's focus a little bit here first on PR, both from your firm's standpoint and talking about maybe advising or helping the other firm and how they're going to introduce the merger into their marketplace. Tell me a little bit about how you approach that and how you may collaborate with the incoming firm, or just your process for going about that.
Obviously, messaging is something we're all going to be passionate about in the merger process. So I start by educating those incoming partners because they're the ones usually that are having those client meetings and explaining the transition. So it's talking points, it's PowerPoints for them internally that we've presented to them to explain the messaging, but then it's also information in all different formats for them to use with clients, whether it's true presentations, collateral, those types of pieces, so they're comfortable with that message. Then there's the official announcements and the PR, which we drive strictly from my team and the CRI side of that merger. So I'm the media contact on everything from that standpoint. Past that, there's a longer term plan around PR and certainly advertising and just marketing strategy in general. So I wouldn't really break PR out separately from that, except to say, we always say you get what you pay for, and PR is, of course, free. And so we build it in, but we never bank on it past that original initial announcement.
Okay. Amy, give us a little bit of your perspective and maybe let us know a little bit of when you do have a new firm coming in. Talk to us a little bit about maybe your strategy as far as what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's client retention of the new firm or building momentum within that new market or within some other markets that you have. Tell me a little bit about how you approach strategy development when it comes to buzz created from the announcement and the change.
Sure. I agree with Bree that your incoming team members and your existing Warren Averett team members, they're going to be your biggest ambassadors for the merger. The way that they feel about the merger is how their clients are going to feel about the merger. So if they're excited about it, their clients are going to be comfortable. If they're apprehensive about what's going on, then their clients are going to be apprehensive. And marketing plays a big role in helping, structure the communications that go out internally that give team members, whether it's Warren Averett team members or incoming team members, that comfort level over what we're doing. So we do spend a lot of time structuring those internal communications like Bree was mentioning, giving them talking points, PowerPoints, pieces that they can use in talking to their clients or their referral sources or, prospects, that kind of thing. And we do spend a lot of time, as a collective team. So it's the Warren Averett leadership, it's the incoming firm, it's their leadership, and we're working together to craft this communication so that it doesn't come across as, a home office type communication. It is a joint communication that we feel like is going to best tell the story, and that's a lot of what we've tried to do too is have a story. Why are we doing this? Something that the client or the community can connect to. We don't want to be perceived as is growing just to grow. Why are we doing this? It's so that our clients are better off. It's so that we can bring this unique service offering that this, firm has to our client base, or vice versa. So we want to create a story and then make sure everybody internally knows that story, so that they can tell it to their clients, and then we can just tweak that somewhat for our general announcement, that we would send to the media or to the industry or something like that. What we might post on our website. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. That was great insight into kind of how you think through the process, what the objectives are, especially looking from the perspective of the incoming firm. What are their clients going to think? What's the perception you want them to have? And obviously you want to frame that in a way. And maybe, Bree, you can touch on that from your perspective. How do you help the incoming firms frame the conversation and frame the way their clients are going to receive it? Because in a lot of instances, you're probably talking about firms that were true local firms, and their clients felt like, okay, we're served by a true local firm, and now they're still probably served by the same people, but now they're served by a rapidly growing regional firm that has a little bit of a different look and feel to it. So maybe you can share a little bit of your strategy on how you approach that.
I loved it when Amy said what those incoming team members think and believe will be what those clients think and believe. It was an excellent point. So it really is about the education of that team that's incoming. And part of this is back to that research. And if you've done your homework about that firm, and I always like to say, don't make assumptions. We've all talked about it at AIM. Every CPA firm is different. Every marketing director story is different. So don't assume they're doing things like your firm is. So ask a lot of questions and understand what their marketing strategies are, what their pain points are. And then you craft that message that is obviously customized for that merger. So for us, it may be that they're a highly specialized tax shop. And so the main focus is on added services and all of those benefits from CRI. Sometimes it's actually marketing tools, and I know all the marketers will love to hear that. So maybe it's that firm actually had just never gotten around to implementing a newsletter. They don't have a marketing team. So sometimes it really depends on which pieces we want to pull out, because it's really what those partners' concerns are, because they're reflecting what they've heard from those clients in previous years and related to longer-term service. So if we understand what their questions are, then I think we understand the client's questions, and then we can very strategically craft that message.
Excellent. Changing a little bit from the PR and the message, which is probably a lot of the front-end work that you do to control and shape perception. Amy, you talked a little bit before we got on the call here about what you've been doing lately and some of the service integration. And when you're rapidly going through mergers, a lot of times you're adding new specialties, new services at the same time you're adding a lot of new clients. So then talk about the process of really maximizing the value of the merger by finding opportunities and developing strategies to deliver services that your firm has, whether you just acquired the services or you had them before, but maximize delivery of your service offerings.
Right. Well, part of what you do initially in a merger is you tell that story about how great and wonderful everything's going to be. Post-merger, we're going to have this to offer you and that to offer you, and then it's like reality sets in, and you've got team members in new markets that are being overwhelmed with operational changes, time and billing, maybe it's a change in the audit process, something. And they're overwhelmed. And then you've got, all of your practice areas. Maybe it's your asset management group, and they're chomping at the bit to get down into those new markets and tell them all about their services. And so you have to, this is something I had made a note of. This is a place where marketing can really get in and kind of help direct traffic and add some value, and maybe put in place a game plan for introducing service areas or introducing industry groups to your new market, to your merged in firm, so that they're not just bombarded with, here's this giant menu of things, now go offer it to all of your clients, because it doesn't work that way. So we've tried to do it kind of in roadshow format. So maybe our technology practice, they'll, during the month of May, they'll try to get around and visit all of our offices and really share with them what they offer clients. Here's what a typical client needs from us. Here's what to look for. when talking to your clients. And then I try to help direct traffic and make sure that we don't have a bunch of other groups trying to get in and all be down in Tampa at the same time, But that's kind of how we've done it, is just maybe a little bit at a time, introducing these new services. And it doesn't need to be a one-way street. Like Bree was saying, some of the firms that get merged in, they have a very unique skill set, an expertise, something they're bringing to the table. And you want it to be a two-way street. You want them getting over to talk to your other Carr Rig offices or, Warren Averett offices to share what they do, so that everybody's kind of just educating. And it's a long process. We had a big merger in 12 and a big merger in 13, and we're just now this summer doing some of that, focus on cross-serving service lines so that everybody in the firm knows what they have available to offer their clients. It doesn't happen overnight.
Bree, can you maybe add to that a little bit about it? I really like what Amy said about we can't just roll out a new menu of services and expect that the partners are going to go and say to their clients and say, here's everything that we do. As I'm sure you both have a lot of experience with, partners are, whether you just are a part of a new firm or not, are protective of their clients. And they want to know not just that we have these new services, but who's going to deliver them. Do I trust them to introduce them to my clients? Bree, maybe tell me a little bit about, and then Amy brought that point up already, tell me how you guys approach that in integrating the people so that you can then integrate the services to maximum effect.
Okay. Well, we have internal training, of course, and so what we do is with those incoming teams, we put them through our internal training programs, which are going to teach them about our services, our industry lines, how everything's set up. So it's a long process, to Amy's point. Those incoming team members are so overwhelmed at first with a million questions, and they've had so much information thrown at them. I can't imagine what percentage they're actually retaining. And so I really think it is 6 months after the merger when they look up and they're retaining what's going on, who the right people are to contact, that type of thing even. So it's a long process in and of itself, but then you add on the stress and the to-do lists and the tasks of a merger, and I think it is at least a year. Past that, what I would say is my immediate go-to is to integrate them into our marketing strategy. So we already are focused on key services and have a plan around those. Our industry line marketing plans certainly are driving everything through our 6 key industries that we have. So the first thing I do is integrate them. Then, once they're comfortable and they've had time to understand CRI services, in the background, the services team, myself, the marketing team, we're all evaluating how to really integrate any additional service lines into the firm. And so at that point, it's how are we going to serve it? How are we going to roll this out across the market? And so that's the longer term, is taking their services and implementing them into our strategy where it makes sense. But I think that part takes longer than actually integrating the incoming team members into our existing strategy.
Mm-hmm. I would, Steve, I'll also say too, where you can take team members in a new market and plug them in on a practice group. Maybe there's a new team member in Tampa that has served some construction clients in the past, but they didn't have a construction practice. Bring him on or her on to the construction practice group. Get them involved so that your industry teams, like Bree was talking about, they're multi-market participants. There's people from all over your footprint participating in that industry group, and then they can take it the next step, which is introducing it to their market. They can lead those efforts. They can, lead setting up more team members in their market, and then also too, anytime you can talk about your different services without it being so formal. Talk about it in a firm meeting, talk about it on your intranet, talk about it in your firm newsletter, whatever it might be, so that people just constantly see it and hear about services without it being so, formal, like a road show or a meeting.
Mm-hmm. So it's a planned, consistent reinforcement and education process of what's available. Very, very interesting.
One thing, when you let off that question, I thought it was funny because actually what I would say is, in my experience, incoming partners in particular, team members in general, but partners in particular, are excited usually about all these additional services. So a lot of times I would actually say I fight the opposite, which is they do want to go and data dump all these fabulous new services that they now have to offer, and they will take a stack of one sheets if you let them, literally, and drop them on a client's desk because they're excited. And so part of, for me, the marketing strategy is trying to show them the value in, no, let's follow the plan and let's take our time and let's do this in a way that makes sense and not overwhelm with all of these other options. And you know your clients, and so you know what they need. We don't need a stack of collateral to go talk to them. So I think you can actually have both sides.
Yeah. And probably a lot of that is how well your firm, and like you talked about, what's the perception and the attitude of the group that's coming in. And if you build that excitement with them and they're truly excited, then you probably have that, they want you to just open up and give them everything you can because they're excited about the new resources for their clients. So that's a testament probably to how your group goes through the process and how the firms are coming in and the excitement level they have. Well, kind of the last topic I want to talk about here is moving a little bit away from the overall firm strategy and how you get involved in that and talking about your marketing groups, because a lot of times when you acquire a firm, you're acquiring some new people in your group that are going to handle the local market but might also integrate into what you're doing on the corporate level. So can maybe Bree, you can start us off and tell us how you have you integrated marketing professionals into your team? And maybe you've acquired firms that don't have marketing professionals, so you may get some of each. But tell me how you have or would approach that in a scenario where a firm comes in and has a team in place or some marketing support people.
We've had an interesting dynamic, and so what I would say is we've not actually merged firms traditionally that have had a marketing team. And my firm splits. We have a sales team and we have a marketing team. So usually what happens is there's been a firm administrator that's maybe helping with some marketing, or there's a hybrid person that's kind of marketing and sales. And so usually if it's a hybrid person, we actually convert them to the CRI salesperson in that market. So with my firm setup, normally that's what's happening for us. With that said, recently we've created 3 divisions, one in 2012 and then 2 this year. So the 2 this year each had their own marketing director when we merged them. So one's wealth management and one's actually a boutique firm that does service organization controlled reporting. And so that's really been my experience with integrating, and it's been different because it's a division of our firm. And so how do you actually marry those branding messages? How do you have distinct identities within one firm? So that's been an interesting process. And what I would say is this. Personalities are always going to play into a team, and collaboration is the number one thing that's needed during a merger. So what I would say to all marketers, no matter which side you're on in the merger, this is your moment to be a rock star. We talk about mergers a lot at AIM. A lot of the team members on both sides know nothing about a merger. They've never done one. So you're in a position to really be a leader and to really have some insight into what might be coming that other people haven't thought about, and to really anticipate some of those challenges and opportunities. So I think if you own that and you collaborate, you're going to have a place. And so we're a big believer at Carr about if you're that employee that we want, we're going to make a place for you. And so we always say we're retaining the current personnel, and we do. And so we convert people where it makes sense. If it makes sense to be on our team, then they're on our team. But all that to say, I think a lot of times people look at a merger as a negative and become very territorial when there's overlap in positions. And I think all marketers in AIM would probably say that they're understaffed in their department. So I think it's a chance and opportunity to prove how important marketing is, period, and certainly within a merger process, and how we really touch all of these things that sometimes partners forget. So I think it's actually an amazing opportunity for marketers. Own it. And I think you'll have many more days ahead of you of even more strategic projects.
Very cool, very cool. Amy, what about you? You've merged, I know you've merged in some firms that have had some marketing people, and they've become a part of your team. Yeah. Tell me how you approach that, and like Bree mentioned, whatever side you're on, we probably will have more people listening to this that are on the side of being acquired. And there's probably some apprehension there and wondering what's going to happen with both the firm, their career, and their role. Add to what Bree said. Give your perspective on any advice you would give to a marketer whose firm is now becoming a part of a larger firm.
Right. I completely agree with everything that Bree said. It was right on point. One thing as a marketer, you just got to get on board, and you've got to know up front that there are going to probably be some things that you're not told, that you feel like, well, gosh, I should know that, and I don't, but that's okay. Just get on board and plug in where you can. Collaboration is critical, and something that I have seen is that marketing, we kind of touch a lot of different things. We're working with HR on communication to employees. We're working with managing partners and CEOs on communication to the public. We're working on these pieces that we're going to give to the partners. And so we're spending time with these groups, and we're spending time with the incoming leadership. And like Bree mentioned, the incoming partners, we're listening to them. We're hearing what their concerns are. We get to help maybe diffuse some of that, because we know what we know what the purpose and the message and the overall goal is from the acquiring firm. So we get to kind of help almost like bring everybody together a little bit, make sure that there aren't any unsettled, thoughts or concerns, and we can make sure people are collaborating, and for us, we've been very fortunate in the two big mergers that we have had. They had very strong, seasoned professional services marketers that had been in the industry for some time, and it made perfect sense for them to stay on. Some of them had teams with them. With the market expanding, with our footprint expanding, there was all this additional opportunity. So it just made sense that our team would grow to support that. So we've been fortunate, as Bree said, that we have kept the marketing team. And from day one, we have collaborated. Of course, there's always going to be a little anxiety over, gosh, what's happening. You just cannot get hung up on titles or even roles. You just got to look at the big picture, which is our firm has just grown, whether it's doubled in size or whatever it might be, and there's all this opportunity in front of you as a marketer. Don't worry about how it's going to fit, because like Bree said, they're not all cookie cutters. They're all different, and some of my team members have merged into different roles altogether, where they might have been leading their market. Now they're overseeing marketing and communications for the whole firm. So there's opportunities that you can work into, and you're critical, because nobody knows your partners, your market, your clients like you do. So, the incoming or the acquiring firm, somebody in my role, I'm counting on that marketing leadership locally to know what's best. And then we've got to work together to figure out how to, execute given our new situation.
Well, and I would add on to what Amy just said, agree with you completely too, Amy. In all of this, you do rely on those local marketing teams to tell you. I don't have time to go in and do all that background and that research. They know it. And so I become the advocate for those marketing teams and become a personal advocate for each one of them in the process. And not that they need an advocate, but just to highlight them in the firm in general with those partners that I've known for a long time through CRI that they're now new to. So I think as marketers banding together and knowing that it's a great thing. Your firm is going to offer some sort of expanded services, expanded footprint, whatever the purpose behind your merger is, which is more opportunity for you and more opportunity to be strategic. And that's really, to me, the differentiator here. It's that you have an opportunity to really step in and lead a marketing plan. And that's what I hear across AIM is so many marketers fighting to say, I'm not here to make a piece of collateral look pretty. Here's what I really can do. Allow me to do it. And so embrace this. It's really your opportunity to do that and to be really successful and have a lot of fun.
Excellent. Very good. I don't have anything else. I think that's a great conversation that you two provided us with today. A lot of good advice, a lot of experience. Is there anything that either one of you that we missed that you would add to anyone watching that you feel like people should know about merger marketing, or anything else that you want to add?
Steve, there are a lot of there are a lot of little things that can turn into big things. For us, from my experience, one of the biggest hurdles that we had to deal with our first merger, the bigger one in 2012, had to do with naming. What are we going to call ourselves now that we've got these three firms that have come together? And we chose to co-brand. And we determined we were going to co-brand for a period of time because we didn't want to lose any brand equity in our new markets. We wanted to introduce Warren Averett in those markets and transition the name. And we kind of ran into some issues with our local accounting society rules. So I would just say, some advice is, early on your leadership, they're concerned with completing a transaction. And they've got a lot of transactional things on their mind, a lot of legal things on their mind. And I kept bringing up the naming. We got to think about that. We got to think about that. And that's not on the forefront of their minds because they're trying to get, a deal done that, that all parties can agree to. And then all of a sudden, and naming, as we know in marketing, you've got to know that before you can do anything else, from communications to creating collateral to web, all of that good stuff. So as soon as you can nail down that with your firm, or at least have a good sense of where you're going, and then also do your homework and know what you can and can't do in your state in terms of how you present yourselves. I hope that wasn't confusing.
No, I think that was fantastic, and I know your experience going back to 2012, because I think I got an email on that about the same time that you did, that was going to be taking place. I think that was a unique experience that we hadn't touched on here yet, which was you were the larger firm that you started with, but you were bringing in other firms that were similar in size to form really a regional firm, and therefore you had those branding issues, and that you did have a lot of brand equity in those other markets. And your strategy to capitalize on that brand equity and then eventually merge that into, one uniform brand. I think that was definitely an interesting perspective on your experience there. So thank you both very much. Thank you for Amy Jemison joining us from Warren Averett and Bree Harding from Carr, Riggs, Ingram. I'm Steve Brunson with Catalyst CPA Marketing. Once again, we'll have another episode of Amplify in a couple of weeks, so we hope everyone will come back and join us then. Thank you very much.
Thanks.